Winners don't do different things. They do things differently.
You know that quote?
Mm-hmm.
It has to be one of the most famous sentences in the entire self-help universe.
Oh, absolutely. It's on posters and office break rooms. It's in the signature of that one uncle's email.
Yeah, the overly enthusiastic one.
Exactly. It's probably stenciled on a gym wall somewhere as we speak. It feels like one of those phrases that's just always been around, part of the cultural ether.
It's totally ubiquitous. And when you first hear it, it sounds almost, well, a bit like a tautology, doesn't it? Like, okay, thanks for that. But if you actually stop and, unpack it, there's a surprising amount of mechanical weight behind that simple idea.
And the man behind that idea, of course, is who we're diving into today, Shiv Khera. And the source, the absolute juggernaut of the genre, is his book, You Can Win. And I think we need to set the stage here, especially for anyone listening who might not be familiar with, say, the Indian publishing scene in the 90s.
Oh, for sure. It was a phenomenon.
You literally could not miss this book. If you walked into a bookstore in India in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was just there.
Yeah.
Stacks of them. It wasn't just a book. It was a full-blown cultural event.
Millions of copies sold. And translated into, over a dozen languages, it became this sort of universal blueprint for success for so many people.
Right.
But what makes this deep dive so fascinating, for me anyway, isn't just, running through a list of do this, don't do that. You can get that from the book jacket.
Yeah.
We're here to bridge two things. On one side, you have the pristine, almost perfect philosophy of the book, which presents itself as this flawless tool for achievement.
And on the other?
And on the other, you have the messy, complicated, and very human reality of the man who wrote it.
And that's where this gets really interesting, because Shiv Khera isn't just some writer who, lives in a cabin and dispenses wisdom from afar.
Not at all.
He's an activist. He's been a politician, a litigant. He's a bit of a lightning rod, frankly. We're talking about plagiarism accusations, failed political campaigns, lawsuits that went all the way to the Supreme Court.
Which really forces you to ask the central question of our deep dive today, doesn't it?
Which is?
Does the messenger actually live up to the message? I mean, can you truly win in the way the book defines it if you're constantly fighting these public battles and, often losing them?
So that's our mission. We're going to unpack the whole attitude is everything philosophy of You Can Win. We will break down the mechanics of success that he lays out.
But we're also going to weave in the tumultuous biography of the man himself.
Exactly. We're going to see how his famous helium balloon theory holds up against the very real gravity of the real world.
It's a study in contrast, really. It's
Okay.
like ancient wisdom meets modern litigation.
I love that. Okay, so let's get into it. And we have to start with the origin story. I mean, every self-help guru has an origin story, right?
It's practically a requirement for the job.
And you usually expect the classic rags to riches narrative.
Right, the whole I landed in this country with $7 in my pocket kind of story.
Yeah.
But Khera's is different. His trajectory is actually more of a rich to rags to riches archetype.
Wait, rich to rags. So he started at the top.
In a way, yeah. He was born on November 13th, 1949, in a place called Dhanbad in India. Now, for anyone who knows the economic geography of India, Dhanbad means one thing.
Coal.
It was the coal capital.
Mm-hmm.
And the Khera family wasn't a family that, worked in the mines.
They owned them.
They owned the mines. He was born into a very business-oriented, pretty affluent family. So he grows up with this expectation of, inheritance of legacy of ownership.
That's a very specific psychological starting point, isn't it? You grow up thinking the world is, yours to manage, in a sense.
Exactly. But then, as you said, the floor just drops out from under him.
The disruption.
The disruption. The Indian government, in a major policy shift, nationalized the coal industry.
So the family business is suddenly not the family's business anymore.
The government just walks in and says, thank you very much. This is ours now.
Yeah.
So in an instant, the security, the legacy, the future he thought he had, it's gone, wiped out.
Right.
It goes from being a part of the owner class to suddenly having to fend for himself in a very, very literal survivalist kind of way.
That has to be a monumental identity crisis. So what does he do? Where does he go from there?
Well, he eventually moves abroad. He spends a lot of time in Toronto, in Canada, and also in the United States. And this is where the hustle chapter of his biography really begins.
Okay.
The sources list this string of jobs that are just a world away from coal mine air.
Like what?
He worked as a car washer, a life insurance agent. He was a franchise operator.
A car washer. Just that one image. I mean, have you ever been to Toronto in the winter?
It's not exactly a tropical paradise, no.
It's brutal. So you can just picture this guy who grew up in the heat of India thinking he was going to manage this industrial empire, now standing in freezing slush, scrubbing tires, his hands probably numb. That's a humbling pivot.
It is. And I think it really grounds the philosophy he develops later on. When Kara talks about hard work or the dignity of labor and you can win, he isn't speaking from some theoretical academic high ground.
No, he's lived it.
He's talking about being the guy who had to sell life insurance. And let's be honest, selling life insurance has to be one of the hardest sales jobs on the planet.
It's just constant rejection, door-to-door heartbreak.
It is. It's 99% rejection. So his ideas about resilience, about persistence, they weren't born in a library. They were forged in survival.
And somewhere in that timeline, between the car washing and the insurance policies, he must have had the spark, right? The moment that turns him from a guy just trying to make rent into a guy telling millions of other people how to run their lives.
And that's where the Toronto connection is so crucial. While he was working there, struggling, he attended a lecture by Norman Vincent Peale.
The Norman Vincent Peale, the power of positive thinking guy.
The one and only. Peale is, a titan of the American self-help movement.
Yeah.
He practically invented that genre of, Christianized optimism back in the mid-20th century.
Right.
And Kara is in the audience, and he is just electrified. He says so himself. He explicitly claims to follow Peale's teachings. So if you trace the lineage of these ideas, Kara is a direct spiritual descendant of that American can-do optimism.
That belief that your mind can literally mechanically alter your reality.
Precisely.
So he takes that American optimism, he mixes it with his own very personal, very raw experience of losing everything and then having to build it back up from nothing. And I know he got a degree somewhere in there too, right?
Yes, and not just any degree. A Bachelor of Commerce with honors from Sri Ram College of Commerce at Delhi University.
Which is a top-tier institution.
A very elite institution.
Yeah.
So you have this cocktail, right? He's got the academic credentials, the brutal street-level struggles, and this motivational spark from Peale. And that combination eventually leads to the publication of You Can Win.
And then you can achieve more, and you can sell. He really found a brand with that You Can title.
It's brilliant marketing, isn't it? It immediately puts the focus, the onus, on the reader. It's not how to win, which sounds like a dry instruction manual.
It's You Can Win.
Which sounds like a permission slip. It's an affirmation before you've even opened the cover.
That's a great point. Which brings us perfectly to the core thesis of the book itself. Let's get into the meat of it. If you had to boil You Can Win down to one single sentence, it really feels like it would be, fix your attitude.
That is the absolute cornerstone of the entire structure. And Kara isn't vague about it. He throws out this very specific, very bold statistic right in the book.
What is it?
He states that 85% of job success is due to attitude.
85%.
85, which leaves only 15% for your actual technical skills and knowledge.
Okay. I have to push back on that a little. I mean, if I'm hiring a brain surgeon, I really, really hope they have more than 15% technical skill.
Yeah.
I don't care how positive their attitude is if they don't know where the cerebellum is.
And I think we all agree there. To be fair to Kara, he's not suggesting we replace medical school with a bunch of pep rallies.
Good.
But the implication is more about what the differentiator is. In a pool of equally qualified candidates, where everyone knows how to fly the plane, who becomes the captain?
Yeah.
Who is the one who handles the mid-air crisis without panicking? Who builds a loyal and effective team?
So it's the tiebreaker.
It's the ultimate tiebreaker. He argues that organizations are obsessed with aptitude, with skills, but they completely under-index on attitude. He introduces this concept he calls total quality people, TQP.
TQP. It sounds like a term from a manufacturing plant.
And it borrows heavily from that world, from total quality management, which was a huge business trend in the 80s and 90s. But he applies it to human character. He says that a successful organization doesn't just need skilled workers. It needs people with integrity, with character, with positivity. Because at the end of the day, you can teach a skill. I can teach you how to use a new software in a week.
But you can't teach character.
It is very, very hard to teach someone not to be a toxic, negative presence in the office.
That is so true. We've all worked with that one person who is an absolute genius at their job, but they poison the well for the entire department.
Exactly. That person has a high aptitude, but a very low altitude.
He uses a really famous analogy to explain this, right? The helium balloon story. I feel like I've heard this 100 times in different forms, but it really sticks.
It's the emotional anchor of the entire book. It's the story of a balloon seller at a fair, and he's releasing balloons of all different colors, red, yellow, blue, green, to attract kids and get attention.
Mm.
And this little boy comes up, tugs on his sleeve, looks him right in the eye and asks, "Mister, if you release a black balloon, would that one fly too?"
And what does the seller say?
He smiles, kneels down, and says, "Son, it is not what is outside, but what is inside that makes it go up."
Boom. There it is. That's the whole philosophy in a nutshell.
It's the perfect elevator pitch. The helium is your attitude. Doesn't matter what your background is, your race, your starting financial position. Those are all just the colors of the balloon.
The external stuff.
The external stuff. If you have the internal drive, the positivity, the helium, you rise.
It's a very empowering message, but it also puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the individual, doesn't it? If you're not rising, well, it must mean your helium is low.
It does. It's a philosophy of radical personal responsibility.
So how does Kara say we actually get this helium? Is it something you're born with?
No, not at all. He argues it is constructed, it's built, and he breaks it down into what he calls the triple E's.
The triple E's. Okay, what are they?
Environment, experience, and education.
Let's break those down. Environment. That seems pretty straightforward.
It's your surroundings. Who are you spending your time with? What kind of media are you consuming? Is your workplace a positive one or a toxic one? Kira's point is that your environment shapes your perception, whether you like it or not.
Like walking through a coal mine, to use a relevant metaphor for him. You're going to get covered in dust.
Exactly. You can't stay clean in a dirty environment. So he says you have to curate your circle. You have to be ruthless about it.
Okay, that's environment. What's the second E?
Experience. And this one is more nuanced. It's not just what happened to you in the past.
Is how you interpret it.
It's how you interpreted what happened to you. Did that past failure teach you a valuable lesson, or did it traumatize you into inaction? Did that setback make you resilient, or did it make you bitter? He believes our present behavior is a direct result of how we've processed our history.
And the third E, education? I'm guessing he doesn't just mean getting a university degree?
No, he makes a very clear distinction between formal education, which is about learning facts and skills, and what he calls values education. He thinks our modern education system teaches us how to make a living, but it doesn't teach us how to live.
How to make a living versus how to live. Like that.
So for him, building the right attitude requires a continuous education in values, in character, in integrity, not just in physics or accounting. It's about moral literacy.
He also tells that story, Acres of Diamonds. This is another one of those fables that seems to pop up in every self-help book ever written, but it's a powerful one. How does he use it?
It's a classic, right? It was popularized by a guy named Russell Conwell. It's the story of a Persian farmer, his name is Hafiz, who hears from a traveling wise man about how incredibly valuable diamonds are.
And he gets obsessed.
Completely obsessed. He sells his farm, he leaves his family behind, and he just wanders the world for years looking for a diamond mine.
And let me guess, he never finds one.
He ends up broke, destitute, utterly broken in spirit, and eventually he throws himself into the sea and drowns. It's a tragic story.
But that's not the punchline.
No.
Yeah.
The punchline is what happens back at the farm he sold. One day, the new owner is letting his camels drink from a creek on the property, and he notices a shiny black stone in the water.
It was a diamond.
Of a massive, uncut diamond. And it turned out that the farm that Hafiz sold to go look for diamonds was, in fact, sitting on top of the Golconda mines.
One of the richest diamond discoveries in human history.
So the farmer was literally standing on a fortune while he was wandering the globe, penniless, looking for one.
Wow.
And the lesson is just so profound, right? Opportunity is almost always right under your feet. We have this grass is greener syndrome where we think real success is in a different city or a different job or a different relationship.
We're always looking out there.
We are. And Kara's saying, look down. Dig where you are. Recognize the potential in your current situation before you abandon it for some fantasy.
That's actually a really empowering idea. It kind of removes the excuse of, oh, I can't succeed because I'm in the wrong place.
It does.
So, okay, let's say I buy into this. I'm convinced. I want to build this positive attitude. I want to find my acres of diamonds.
Does he give us a concrete to-do list?
He does. The book is full of actionable steps. Let's talk about some of the heavy hitters. The first one is change focus. This is what he calls the seeker mindset. Basically, whatever you look for, you will find. If you go through your day looking for things to complain about, you'll find an endless supply.
But if you look for things to be grateful for,
You'll find those too. It's like the reticular activating system in your brain, you know. When you decide to buy a specific model of red car, suddenly you see that red car everywhere.
yes.
You're just programming your brain's search filter, which leads right into his next step, gratitude. Actively focusing on what you have, not what you lack.
And then there's the big one. The one that I think trips up almost everyone.
Do it now.
The battle against procrastination. He is huge on this. And he argues that procrastination is not a time management problem. He says it's an attitude problem. It's a deep-seated refusal to engage with the present moment.
It's fear.
It's fear, it's perfectionism, it's a lack of clarity.
Yeah.
But he says winners have a bias for action. They take action immediately. He literally suggests writing, do it now, on a bunch of little pieces of paper and sticking them on your mirror, your computer, your dashboard until it becomes an unconscious reflex.
I feel like I might need to tattoo that on the back of my hand. Okay, so we've got the attitude. That's the foundation. But attitude alone doesn't, pay the mortgage.
Right.
We need to talk about the next section, defining and actually engineering success. How does he define success? Because that word means so many different things to different people.
He actually borrows a definition from another motivational speaker, a guy named Earl Nightingale. And he defines success as the progressive realization of a worthy goal.
Progressive realization. I like the sound of that. It implies that it's a moving target. It's not a static destination.
Exactly. You don't just arrive at success station and then get off the train and you're done. It's a journey. And that word worthy is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence too.
It adds a moral dimension.
It does. It's not just about getting rich or famous. It's about pursuing something that has meaning, something that matters. And Kara makes another crucial distinction here. Success is intentional. It is not an accident.
You don't just trip and fall into success.
No. He really contrasts this with the idea of luck. He says people who fail often blame bad luck, while people who succeed take credit for their good choices.
Which goes back to the famous quote.
Winners don't do different things, they do things differently. That word differently implies a method. It implies a system, an engineering process. If you follow the recipe to bake a cake, you get a cake every time. If you just randomly throw ingredients in a bowl and hope for the best, you get a mess.
So success has a recipe. What are the main ingredients in Kara's recipe?
Well, the source material lists a bunch of them. Things like desire, commitment, responsibility, character. They're all important. But the concept that really stood out to me as unique to his framework is what he calls the winning edge.
The winning edge. Tell me about that.
He uses a great analogy of a horse race. In a big race, the winning horse might only win by a nose, just a tiny margin, a few inches.
Right, photo finish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But let's say the prize money for first place is $100,000, and the prize for second place is only $10,000.
So 10 times the money for that tiny difference.
Right. But here's the question. Was the winning horse 10 times faster than the second horse?
No, of course not. It was, what, a fraction of a second faster?
Exactly. Was it 10 times stronger?
Yeah.
Was it 10 times better trained? No. It was just a little bit better on that day at that one crucial moment. That is the winning edge.
So you don't have to be 100% better than your competition to get 100% of the rewards.
You just need to be a little bit better in the key areas. It's about small, consistent improvements leading to these outsized, disproportionate results.
That actually makes success feel much more achievable. You don't have to be a superhero. You just have to be slightly sharper, slightly more persistent. But if the recipe is so clear, why do we fail? Why isn't everyone a winner?
He lists a whole catalog of obstacles. All the usual suspects are in there, fear, lack of priorities, poor self-esteem. But the one he really, really hammers home is instant gratification.
The desire for shortcuts, the magic pill.
We want the prize without the practice. We want the fit body without the diet and exercise. We want the cake without the baking time. Kara argues this is a primary driver of failure. We consistently compromise our long-term values for short-term pleasure.
And I suppose connected to that is how we view failure itself.
Absolutely. He does not see failure as the opposite of success.
He sees it as a stepping stone to success.
A necessary part of the process. And he brings up all the classic historical examples, Abraham Lincoln losing election after election before becoming president, Thomas Edison and his 10,000 failed attempts at the light bulb. But my favorite one he mentions is Walt Disney.
Oh, what's the Disney story? I don't think I know this one.
Well, Early in his career, Walt Disney was fired from a job at a newspaper
Fired for what?
for lacking imagination and having no original ideas.
You're kidding me. The man who basically invented the modern animated character who created Mickey Mouse was fired for a lack of imagination.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? But it proves Kira's point perfectly. Failure is just data. It's feedback from the world. If you have the right attitude, the helium failure doesn't pop your balloon. It just changes the wind direction for a bit.
You have to have the self-concept, as he would say, to just ignore that editor who tells you you're not creative.
You have to believe in your own helium more than you believe in their criticism.
I love that idea. Failure as data. Okay, so we have the attitude, we have the mechanics of success. Now let's get into the pure head game. Section 4, the psychology of performance. And he makes a distinction here that I think is really subtle but incredibly important. The difference between motivation and inspiration.
This is such a crucial nuance, and most people, I think, use those two words completely interchangeably.
Yeah, I probably do.
But Kara separates them. He says, inspiration changes your thinking. It's intellectual. It's a spark. You read a powerful quote, you watch an emotional movie, you feel inspired.
But it's passive.
It can be, because motivation, he says, changes your action. Motivation is the fuel in the tank that actually moves the car forward. Inspiration is just looking at the roadmap and dreaming about the destination.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. So I can be inspired to get in shape by watching a documentary, but until I am actually motivated enough to go to the gym and lift the weight, nothing changes.
Exactly. And then he breaks motivation down even further into internal and external.
The classic carrot and the stick, right?
That's the external motivation. Fear is the stick, and incentive is the carrot. And Kara argues that these are always temporary. If I offer you a bonus to work harder this month, you'll probably work harder.
Sure.
But what happens next month when there's no bonus? The motivation is gone. It relies on me, the external force, to keep providing the stimulus.
But internal motivation.
Internal motivation comes from within. It comes from your own belief system, your sense of responsibility, your pride in your work. It's permanent. It's self-generating.
That's the total quality person again.
It is. They don't need a boss hovering over them to do good work. They do good work because that is who they are. Their motivation is part of their identity.
He also talks about the pain or gain principle.
Right, which is the fundamental equation of human change. We're only motivated to change when the perceived gain of changing outweighs the perceived pain of changing.
Or when the pain of staying the same becomes unbearable.
Exactly. The pain of staying the same has to be greater than the pain of the effort required to change. So you have to visualize the gain, the positive outcome, so clearly and so vividly that the pain of the process feels worth it.
Let's talk about the pumpkin story. This is another one of those simple, powerful visuals from the book that really stuck with me.
It's a fantastic analogy for self-limiting beliefs. The story goes that a farmer takes a young pumpkin, still on the vine, and places it inside a large glass jar.
Okay.
And he just leaves it there. And the pumpkin grows. But as it grows, it hits the sides of the jar, and so it conforms to the shape of its container. When he finally harvests it, he breaks the glass, and he has a pumpkin that is the exact shape and size of that jar.
And we are the pumpkin.
We are the pumpkin. And the jar is our self-concept, our belief about who we are and what we're capable of. Kira's point is that we can never, ever perform beyond the limits of how we see ourselves.
So if you see yourself as a $10,000 a year person, you will unconsciously sabotage any opportunity that might make you a $100,000 a year person.
You will. You'll stop growing because you've hit the invisible glass wall of your own jar.
So how do we break the jar? How does he say we build our self-esteem and expand that self-concept?
He offers a few really interesting tactics. One he calls turn scars into stars.
That sounds like a country song title.
It totally does, but the idea is actually quite deep. It means taking your past traumas, your failures, your moments of weakness, and reframing them as the very things that gave you your character and strength. You don't hide the scar, you wear it as a badge of survival and learning.
I like that. What else?
Intelligent ignorance.
Wait, ignorance is a good thing.
In certain contexts, yes. He uses the famous bumblebee analogy. According to the known laws of aerodynamics, when you look at the bee's wing size in relation to its body weight and shape, it should not be able to fly.
It's scientifically impossible.
It is, but the bumblebee, of course, flies anyway.
Because the bee doesn't know it's impossible.
Exactly. The bee is ignorant of the supposed limitation. And Kara says that sometimes, to achieve great things, you have to be intelligently ignorant. You have to plug your ears when all the so-called experts are telling you that something can't be done.
And finally, he talks about kindness, which seems like an interesting addition to a book about winning.
He calls it acts of kindness, simply doing things for other people without any expectation of getting something in return. It seems selfless, and it is, but he argues it's also one of the best ways to build your own self-esteem.
How so?
Because when you help someone else, you prove to yourself, on a subconscious level, that you have value to give. You have something to offer. It reinforces your own sense of worth.
And all of this ties into interpersonal skills, right? There's a Rockefeller quote he uses.
Yeah, John D. Rockefeller, one of the richest men in history, said he would pay more for the ability to deal with people than for any other ability under the sun.
Wow.
And Kara makes this great distinction. He says you have to learn the difference between being sensitive and being touchy.
What's the difference in his view?
A sensitive person is someone who genuinely cares about the feelings of other people. Their focus is outward. A touchy person is someone who is overly defensive and worried about their own feelings. Their focus is inward.
So winners are sensitive, losers are touchy.
It's a harsh way to put it, but yeah, that's the gist. It's a very useful distinction to think about.
It really is. Okay, so we've built this incredible picture of the philosophy. Positive attitude, internal motivation, breaking the jar, engineering success. It's all very clean, it's logical, it's inspiring.
It is.
But now, here's where we earn our keep as a deep dive.
The pivot to the real world.
Section 5, the public figure. Because, as we said at the start, Shiv Khera did not just write the book and then retire to an island. He entered the arena. And, well, it wasn't always pretty.
No, it certainly wasn't. He tried to take this philosophy of winning and apply it directly to the very, very messy world of Indian politics and social activism.
He started an organization, right? The Country First Foundation.
Yes, a social activism group. And their mission statement is very high-minded: freedom through education and justice. And through this foundation, he got involved in some really heavy, contentious issues, specifically the anti-reservation movement in India.
And for our global listeners, can you just give us a quick primer on what reservation is?
Sure. Reservation in India is basically a system of affirmative action. A certain percentage of government jobs and seats in educational institutions are reserved for people from historically disadvantaged castes and tribes. It is a deeply, deeply polarizing and emotionally charged topic in India.
And Khera took a stance against it.
He took a stance against caste-based reservation. He argued for a system based on economic status or pure merit rather than caste.
Which, you have to say, is consistent with his philosophy, right? If you believe that your attitude and effort are what matter, you're naturally going to favor a system of meritocracy over a system of quotas.
Absolutely. It's a logical extension of his worldview, but it puts him right in the middle of a political firestorm. And he didn't just talk about it. He filed public interest lawsuits, or PILs, in the Supreme Court of India. He tried to use the legal system to force this change.
And then he took it a step further. He actually ran for office.
He really did practice what he preached about taking action. In 2004, he ran as an independent candidate for the South Delhi constituency in the national general elections.
So the man who literally wrote the book called You Can Win, did he in fact win?
He lost.
Okay.
Right.
But did he persist?
He did. A few years later, in 2008, he founded his own political party, the Bharatiya Rashtravadi Samanata Party. And then later, in 2014, he threw his support behind the BJP and campaigned for one of its senior leaders, Lal Krishna Advani.
So he's been all over the political map, an independent, the founder of his own party, a supporter of a major party, but he never actually held a major elected office himself.
No, he did not. And this is where a critic might look at the cover of his book, You Can Win, and raise a very cynical eyebrow.
Right. If the author himself keeps losing elections, is the philosophy flawed?
Or, and this is the other way to look at it, is that the entire point, that winning isn't necessarily about the final result, the election tally, but about having the courage to get in the arena and run in the first place.
That's the charitable reading.
It is.
Yeah.
And it aligns perfectly with his view that failure is just a stepping stone. He didn't let the loss in 2004 stop him from trying again. He kept doing it now.
But then there's the other controversy, the one that strikes right at the heart of his credibility as an author and a thinker, the plagiarism suit.
This is the real elephant in the room. When Khera published another one of his books called Freedom is Not Free, a retired civil servant named Amrit Lal came forward with a serious accusation.
And what did Amrit Lal claim?
He claimed that Khera had lifted significant amounts of content directly from his own book, which was called India Enough is Enough, and had been published 8 years earlier. And this wasn't just a vague, oh, the ideas are similar kind of accusation.
Yeah.
No. He alleged that specific anecdotes, jokes, passages, and even the structure were copied, in some cases verbatim.
That is a very serious charge, especially for a man whose entire brand is built on words like integrity and character. How did Kara respond to that?
His defense was somewhat pragmatic. He claimed that over decades of reading and giving speeches, he'd compiled this massive collection of notes from hundreds of sources, and he essentially said he couldn't track where every single little story or quote came from. He positioned it not as malicious theft, but as a failure of attribution in his note-taking system.
I read so much, I just forgot where I got it from. Defense.
That's basically it. But the resolution of the case tells its own story. It was eventually settled out of court. And as part of that settlement, Kara paid an undisclosed sum of money, which was reputed to be around 25 lakh rupees, a very significant amount, to Amrit Lal.
And Lal, the accuser, donated the money.
Yes, he donated the entire sum to the Missionaries of Charity.
Wow. Okay, so how do we process this? On one hand, you have the guru telling us to live a life of impeccable character. And on the other, you have a plagiarism lawsuit that ends with a hefty out-of-court settlement.
It highlights the complexity of the human messenger, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It brings us right back to that critical thinking point. Does the fact of this lawsuit negate the value of the helium balloon story? Does his political loss mean that the advice in You Can Win is a lie?
It's the classic death of the author debate, isn't it? Can the advice be good even if the advisor is flawed?
I think what it does is serve as a powerful reminder that the book provides a simplified model of the world. In the book, if you have character and you work hard, you win. It's a clean equation.
But then in the real world...
In the real world, you might have character and you might work hard, and you can still get sued or lose an election or make a very public mistake with your footnotes. Real life is just. It's messier than that 85% attitude statistic would suggest.
But maybe that messiness is exactly why the book is so necessary. We need the ideal, the simplified model, precisely because the reality is so chaotic.
That's a great way to look at it. The book is the compass. It always points north. Just because the person holding the compass trips over a rock on the path doesn't mean that north isn't still north.
Just because the person holding the compass trips over a rock doesn't mean north isn't north. I'm going to steal that. See? I'm plagiarizing you already.
As long as you attribute it to the deep dive, we're all good.
So, after all this, what's the final takeaway? We've gone from the coal mines of Dunbad to the motivational stages of the world. We've looked at the helium balloon, the pumpkin in the jar, and the courtroom settlements.
I think the core message that endures, regardless of the personal controversies, is about agency. Kara's fundamental argument is that you have more power over your life than you think you do. You are not a permanent victim of your circumstances. You are not defined by the fact that the coal mine closed down. You are the architect of your own response to what life throws at you.
And even if that 85% attitude statistic is, completely unscientific, the sentiment behind it is powerful. At the end of the day, if you believe you can't, you almost certainly weren't.
Right. And if you look at the actual action plan from the book, Practicing Gratitude, Taking Action Now, Committing to Continuous Education, those are undeniably effective tools for a better life. Even if the messenger is imperfect, the toolkit itself still works.
So here's my final thought for you as you're listening to this. We talked about that pumpkin in the jar. The pumpkin that stops growing because it hits the glass ceiling of its own self-concept. Shiv Kara's life, for all its ups and downs, shows us someone who absolutely refused to stay in the jar. He broke the glass. And sometimes, he got cut by the shards, the lawsuits, the losses, but he kept growing.
That's the real lesson, isn't it? Breaking the jar isn't always safe or clean. It's messy. But it's a lot better than staying the size of a pickle jar when you were meant to be a prize-winning pumpkin.
So the question for you is this. Are you waiting for your environment to change, to start winning? Are you waiting for the government to give the coal mine back? Or are you ready to change the only thing you truly have control over and realize that you are the helium?
It's not what's outside, it's what's inside.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
See you in the next deep dive.